So, why are hotels ignoring your sales pitch? Many suppliers and vendors in hospitality are frustrated by the lack of effectiveness of their traditional sales tactics, not realizing the B2B landscape has changed dramatically. I recently spoke to Connor DeLanney at Impact, and he answered questions like, why are hospitality and vendors having such a hard time connecting with their prospects? Has something changed that has made this more difficult than years past? What are the biggest mistakes he sees companies making? And what can those do to make the changes to help make this better for them? Let's go. Connor, welcome to the InnSync show, man. Happy Friday.
Thanks, Cory. Excited to be here, dude. I was pretty pumped when you invited me on. I pay attention to a lot of what you and your team get up to, and when you said, "Hey, we got to talk about this issue in particular," that I'll let you tee up, I was pretty pumped.
Nice. Hey, man, I remember how we first connected on LinkedIn. We got into a little humorous banter and some comments, and that stuck out. Much to my surprise, I've had another great connection. I've met you on LinkedIn. We've never met in person.
One day.
Yes, exactly. We are going to talk about why hotels are ignoring vendor and supplier sales pitches. And so I've got Connor DeLanney. He's with Impact, and he's with the They Ask, You Answer methodology, which I absolutely love, and we're going all in on. So welcome to the show, man.
Thanks, Cory. Really excited to be here, like I said.
Awesome. Many suppliers and vendors in hospitality industry are frustrated with their traditional all outbound cold outreach, and they're not realizing some of the changes that has happened in the buyer's landscape. So we're going to dive into that, and I'm going to get right at it. So why are suppliers and vendors of the industry having such a hard time connecting with their prospects where they once were, say, 5 years ago?
Yeah. Even if we zoom out, let's call it 25 years ago first. Business has always been about the relationships. And in hospitality and hotels, it's even more about relationships because the people you know are usually the people you work with. And that, I believe, that relates to a lot of B2B and even some B2C businesses too, where relationships are at the core of what we do. But as this thing called the internet has evolved, that relationship's getting built in different ways. For what I see, more and more businesses have to build a relationship before the customer is going to pick up the phone and want to talk to you. And over the last 5 years in particular, to zoom back in, customers are doing even more research ahead of time than they did before. And, introducing COVID and other places that forced us to be digital created a shift in how customers are buying today. So a lot of them are focused on, what can I learn? What can I Google search? What can I read? What can I watch? What can I listen to? How can I gather information so that I don't have to waste my time vetting different options? And so where that conflicts with this cold outreach and what vendors are running into a lot is, if we're reaching out to them, they're not saying, I have a problem. They're not saying, I need someone's help. What they're doing is saying, why are you bothering me? I didn't ask for your help. And it's actually destroying the relationships you're hoping to build.
Bingo.
And my biggest fear that happens when you do this is you're likely burning a bridge that nobody's even tried to cross yet. You're just burning it from the start. Nobody's falling off the cliff because they're just standing there. Now you're just looking at each other, waving, saying, I hope I can help you someday, but you don't have a bridge to actually get to each other. So what I'm seeing a lot is, again, with how vendors are reaching out to these hotels, to these different chains, is crossing their fingers that they have a problem and that they're landing at the right time, versus how can I help you learn about the ways the industry is changing? How can I build a relationship with you without you even having to talk to me? And then handing you the keys and saying, when you're ready, come and reach out to me and I'll be here to help whenever you need it. That's what I'm seeing today. And I think that's where a lot of people are making mistakes, especially regarding building relationships.
Man, that was so on point right there. To add a little bit more difficulty to the landscape, so many of these people don't realize they're trying to get a hold of somebody even at the hotel level that's worried about their bartender hasn't shown up yet, or they're folding towels and they're just trying to deal with their day-to-day issues. And here comes a sales pitch and they're trying to classic feature dump. Oh, guess what? We got more bells and whistles in this app that you got. You have to use this. Not realizing they're annoying and frustrating the heck out of these people. It is making that process even so much more complex. And people are not understanding and putting themselves in their prospect shoes. How do they react when they get a cold sales pitch? They don't want to even listen to it. Why? That's what drives me insane, is why some of these vendors or suppliers that are trying to sell to hotels, when asked how they react to a cold sales pitch, is, oh my God, get away from me. Why would that be different?
Right. Yeah. There's a huge disconnect between the way I buy, the way I personally buy, when we're thinking about it in this context, like the way you, the individual, go buy, and the way that we think our customers buy, which is if we're in front of them, they're going to buy from us. But really, if you were to go, and Cory, I'm sure you're going to relate to this, if you were going to go make a significant purchase, which I imagine for a lot of the teams you work with and a lot of the customers in the hospitality industry, it's not a $20 buy where I don't even have to think about it. I can just whip out a bill and hand it to you. Like they're making significant purchases. You're always going to go do your research. You've got to learn about important things like price. You're going to do comparisons. You're going to go learn about these principles of how we've learned how to search for stuff. We're going to learn all this information ahead of time, and then we're going to make a buying decision, and then we're going to at least narrow it down. We have to know as buyers more and more about big purchase decisions, and we have more access to information than we've ever had before. And yet, as the business trying to sell to you, we're assuming that you're just going to happen to say, yeah, I do have that problem. And thank goodness you reached out to me, like my hero, versus no, I know most of where I'm at. And like you said with the bartender example, the problem you're trying to solve is very likely not the problem that they see in front of them until they say it is. Bingo. And that's where we're wasting a lot of time, a lot of energy, and probably a lot of money just reaching out to people blind and crossing our fingers that they have a problem that they likely aren't even thinking about because they're so in the business. They can't think about a new system. They can't think about new furniture or whatever the case might be, because they've got to just staff up for the day right now. Like it's so easy. It's so easy for us to think they're thinking about their whole world when really they're just thinking about what they're gonna have for lunch.
Exactly. And ironically, in fact, question 3, I don't want to jump the gun here, but that's the mistakes that they're making because they're not even leading with the problem, which is a whole other argument. So, So classic setup for they ask you answer. Yeah. Obviously things have changed because of this thing that we've talked about, the internet, and Marcus really underscores that in the 7 principles, which I watched again last night.
Nice. What
has changed in these recent years that has made this different today than it was?
Yeah. As the internet's evolved, buyers have gotten more savvy. Think about in the past, and again, I'm on the younger side of this, but I still understand this is the principle of it. When we used to go to let's say a car lot, we're looking for a new car. We couldn't go online and search and compare. I have a Subaru Crosstrek. I couldn't compare that to a Honda, to a Rolls Royce, to whatever. I couldn't compare all these cars and better understand what I need in terms of features and other pieces. I would go and I would say, hey, expert car person, here's what I'm looking for. I need a family sedan that can hold 2 kids and my wife and me. And what would you recommend? And how much is that going to cost? Now, with the internet, buyers understand more and there's more information out there than ever before. And yet so many businesses are scared to put it out there. So when we work with companies that are doing the ask you answer, which again, as a whole, just to briefly describe what that is, and you can look it up. We'll share some links, I'm sure, too, Cory, so you can help me out there. But they ask you answer is all about answering customers' questions so they can be a better, more educated consumer so that they can make a decision. And what we see companies thrive in is when you're the person that's educating them, you're building trust. You're building a relationship with them. And when you have trust, buyers aren't as scared of paying more or having a slightly longer process because they trust you're going to do it right because they learned from you beforehand. It's the same reason why 50 years ago, If you had a relationship and this is my buddy Dan, and Dan's helped our business out for a long time, Dan can help your business, Cory, you'd say, oh, Connor, thanks for the recommendation. I'm going to go work with Dan because I know you and I trust you. I'm going to go trust Dan as well. Now that relationship's getting formed beforehand. And when trust is at the core of all of our businesses, I don't know a single business in the world that would say, we don't need trust in order to sell to people. We don't need trust in order to work with them. When you're thinking about building trust, you start to give information and help a customer make sense of it. And the more that customers are leaning into, that's more of what's becoming table stakes today. And that's what I think has changed more than ever. Is trust is table stakes. Trust isn't something that you can hopefully wipe away or sneak behind, because the customer is going to feel it out right away. And just an interesting example, because I don't know if we'll talk about it today, but like this whole AI conversation too.
Yep.
A lot of people have fears with AI because they don't trust it. But if you're someone that's utilizing it and talking through it, like people read right through AI if you just plug something in and pull it back out, again, across any industry. But with hospitality in particular, like people do more decisions because there's more options than ever before too. And when you have a ton of options, you have to do your homework. You've got to filter out the bad fits and get narrowed into, can this person actually help me? Because nobody wants 50 requests for proposals anymore. You want to get it figured out quick. You want to solve your problem fast. And in the world, we move faster than ever. You want to get that solution done and through. And the person that's going to help you the fastest, that's going to give you the information, is usually going to win the business too.
Very good point. AI, you touch on a really good point. Another thing has changed, obviously, online and the internet, the ability us to do our own research and searching, and that's how we all want to do that process. But now with the advent of even ChatGPT, you can really source and get a ballpark of any information that you want at the ready. And this notion of companies guarding it, or no, we're going to let sales walk you through that process. That is even taking to the online to a whole different level, where a lot of companies are still talking about playing defense, which we're going to a little bit more, which is perfect segue into the next question I was going to ask you is, what are some of the biggest mistakes companies making right now?
Yeah, there's a few key ones that I think are really important. Number one, cold calls suck.
Ha! And we don't have to take them, by the way. So yes.
Yeah, yesterday I was on a Zoom call and I got a call from a rep at some company I'd never heard of. And I sent him to voicemail, and I go and listen to the voicemail, and it's like, hey, I'm XYZ person at ABC company, and I saw that you use this tool, and I think you would do a lot better if you use this tool instead. And I was like, no, I'm good. And I just never responded. It took me 3 seconds to make that decision. That's the same way when anyone gets a call. Like when you get those spam calls, what's your initial instinct? To hang up. Like, we're not here to waste our time. The biggest mistake I'm seeing is people doing absolute cold calls. Like there is some merit to, they're a warm prospect. They've validated themselves. Maybe they filled it, they downloaded some form on your website or something. They downloaded a book, an ebook, a guide, a checklist, whatever. That at least shows some intent. But if you're just wasting your time with, hey, I'm just gonna pick up the phone 150 times and hope that 2 of them hit, you're playing the wrong game. There's people out there who will want to buy your services as long as they understand that you can help them solve the problem. Yep. And they understand what to do in order to get in touch with you. And I think that's where a lot of people waste their time. The second biggest mistake that I see is not optimizing your website for your customer. And when I think about websites, there's a few different ways that people lay them out. There is what I'll call like the brochure website, which is pretty much we have a website because we have to have a website or else we're completely off the map. But otherwise it's like a few pages, it's really blanket statements. It's the same thing if you printed it out, you would just fold it up into 3 and you'd hand it to someone and say, this is what our business does. That's what we call it, a brochure website. The second one is the feature dump / here's all the great things we do website, which is basically an extended brochure of just, and here's our sales pitch along with it. And that's where a lot of businesses fall is, we're great. Here's all the great things we do. Here's how we fix all the problems in the world. Here's how to buy from us. And they don't really think about what the third option is, which is a customer-focused experience. And when you create a customer-focused website, here are the main changes that I see that a lot of companies are not doing in these other two, which is They have messaging that's focused on the customer. It's talking about, you probably have this problem, or your business is struggling with this. A lot of you language versus we or me or I language, where they're really focused in on that. The second piece is they have clear calls to action that are driving people to take the next step and want to learn from you and show, maybe learn from you, get in contact with you. They have a clear journey a customer should go on. And then they're clearly explaining really important information that anyone's going to look for when they are making a buying decision, which is things like, how much does it cost? How long does it take? When can we get started? What do I need to know in order to get in contact with you? Who's a good fit versus not a good fit? They're answering questions that are going to make a buyer feel more confident in moving forward with them because they feel understood. The customer saying, you get me. You understand the problems I have. A great example of that, Cory, would be the example you brought up of, you're so busy working on the business, you're in it every single day, maybe in the business, better phrase. You're so busy working in the business on these little intricate things, you shouldn't have to worry about if your booking system's gonna ever break down. And you start to nail down, never worry about this because you've got other things to worry about. And it's, yeah, as a manager at this hotel chain, I've got so many little things I'm trying to keep track of just to keep us afloat that I can't have my systems breaking. So I need a team that's going to help us solve that. If your website's nailing that and your messaging's nailing that, and even across the board, your socials, if everything's nailing that, then customers are saying, oh yeah, like I do want to work with that company. The last big mistake is being reactive in the industry, where if you're constantly on your heels, hoping that customers are going to get back to you, or you're having to react to, I need the number to be less, and you have to cut profit margins just to make a customer happy, you're probably not doing your business a whole lot of service if you're just responding to what that individual says because you need the business. It's not a healthy business model. And what I see in hospitality a lot is this: you send a proposal in, you send out your response, you package it all nice together, and they come back and they say, if you tweak it this way, this will do, versus focusing on the problem that a customer has and saying, based on our experience and our expertise in this industry to solve your problem and verify and validate that this is your problem, here's the recommendation we're going to make and here's how much it costs. When you focus on that problem, it all comes back to that same deal of, if you understand what a customer needs and why it's important to them, they will pay more for it. They will work within what you recommend, and they will listen to you versus you having to be an order taker in the industry and constantly trying to get in front of people. When you understand the problem your customer has, they will come to you and say, can you help me solve that? And so instead of being reactive, you're being proactive. You're helping a customer say, yes, I have that problem. I need your help to solve it. How do we do that? Those are my big three mistakes that I'm seeing a lot of businesses make in the hospitality industry and really across the board. Again, B2B and B2C, frankly, too.
Yep. And just to dovetail on that, being reactionary mindset versus, and that's the whole classic outbound, inbound, right? And it's, a lot of them still are in this, it's a numbers game. As long as we just, we bombard them with calls, we spam the hell out of them, ultimately we're going to get people to bite. Not realizing that they're, at some point you're going to annoy, and I'm sure you've been in this situation too. Drives me insane. They do not put an unsubscribe on their email. So I've been very diligently and so polite saying, look, I'm not interested right now. Please take me off your list. If things change, I'll circle back around with you. They've ignored my request. They continue to send that to me. There's nothing in this world at this point that would convince me to ever do business with this person. I'm literally to a point where I'm almost ready to go to LinkedIn and shame them to stop it, because this has been going on for a while. These people have damaged their reputation so much that I don't think they're realizing, if they're playing this numbers game, ultimately is also doing a lot of damage on the back end and not taking the time, like you said, to deeply understand the problems and the landscape and the circumstance that the prospects are going through, not being empathetic. And I think a lot of them from a mindset are, and that's why I think a lot of the frustration level is really beginning to bubble up, because there's still, even after they realize what we're doing is not working, but we're going to continue to do the same thing. We just need to ramp up our numbers more, get another list, we got to bombard them, hit them over the head. And for the life of me, I don't understand how they don't understand.
Especially when they're not getting the results they're looking for. And it's not, Corey, I think a lot of people might make the assumption of, we can't go quality over quantity because we've got to hit these marks, we've got to grow, we got to do these things. There is a balance. There's an art to it. I respect you need to have more conversation. Look, I sit in the sales seat for most of my day. Like, I understand the need to have volume of opportunities. The key is volume of people that actually are somewhat interested. Like, you want at bats, but you can't be taking a million swings and not wasting your time on 3/4 of them, because it's not a good use of your time. But if you're focusing on the right customers, you're gonna have better at bats, and you're still gonna get that quality and quantity balance.
Yeah, you brought up a really good point. Here's another problem that not just the hospitality suffers with, a lot of other companies, is the short-sightedness.
Ooh, yeah.
So you hit it right on the point. If you hit them over the head, you convince somebody to buy your product, it wasn't the right fit, you got a sale, right? Congratulations. But suddenly, this new customer that you onboarded, you knew was not the right fit. It's been a trouble since day one. They did not have successful onboarding, did not have a successful experience, left, and now they're upset at you. They're not giving you a great review. They're giving you a negative review, which is now going to make your prospecting process much more difficult because you didn't have the right fit.
Right.
That drives me absolutely crazy. And they're not looking at the big picture because, again, the internet, I can see testimonials all day long. And people are going back to social proof. We're looking for friends and family for word of mouth now.
Right.
They're not looking at the full picture.
Yeah,
right?
That's a fantastic point, because you become each other's headaches.
Exactly.
And nobody's happy when you have a headache.
win.
Everyone's grumpy.
Quick win.
I got my money in the door now. And yes, of course you want that. At the same time, if 6 months from now they say, this was awful, what a waste of money, we're going to let the world know, you're probably costing yourself 5-10x of that at least.
Bingo.
Because of that one experience that you had, because you weren't willing to take the time to make sure they're the right fit.
Conversely, which I'm jumping the gun in on some advice on what you could do, but I just wanted to take this. Instead of that, you onboard the best fit, you document them as a success story on video, right? And now you've seen the smile on their faces. Connor just solved the biggest thorn in my side I've had for ages. These guys are amazing. Now you're 10xing on the other side.
Right?
Which is going to lead me into my last question for you is, how can companies make the biggest impact today?
Yeah, let's start with the one that you just laid out, which is you have to tell really effective customer journey experiences. And that goes beyond a testimonial or just a, can I get a quick quote? It is the start with, where was that customer today? Or where were they when they started? And what you're trying to do is relate them to other customers in the market, because the problems they're facing are probably exactly the same as a lot of other people out there. So help them understand, here's the pain I was feeling, here's how frustrated I was. Because we all have, if your business is successful, you have a great fit customer you've worked with. I don't know of a single business that's successful where they've all been mediocre or happy enough that wouldn't be able to say, this was amazing, we got great results. So you talk them through, what were you experiencing when you started? And then what started to change? And why did Lure Agency come in? Why did this business come in? And what did they do that changed what you were doing? And then where are you today? So take them through that entire experience. I think that's especially helpful in hospitality because it makes it feel relatable, it makes it feel personal, and it makes it feel real. It makes it feel like, wow, yeah, they get it because I'm running into the same problems right now. Exactly. And then that becomes, and this is where I think it becomes the bigger thing of, how can we utilize that in your sales process? Because even if we are doing cold outreach, Corey, if you can utilize something that's going to feel relatable and personal to someone, that is where I've seen people change their mind, even when it is, yes, they're in the same industry. We don't know if they have a problem yet, but they at least say, wow, that actually resonated with me. Maybe I should talk to this person. Instead of it being a feature dump or similar to the example that I shared earlier, basically a dumping on your current solution in favor of their solution.
Right.
When you're doing those kinds of things, you're like, hey, I chose that company. I don't want you to just telling me it sucks because I did that.
You just insulted them. Right.
Right. Yeah. You're telling me that I made a bad choice. Now I don't feel good about you. And I still have been happy with my choice. So it's a double whammy there.
Totally.
Those are two big areas that you can have a positive impact. But just as a whole, at the end of the day, businesses need to focus more on trust. They need to focus more on educating customers and building relationships before they get in contact with you. If you're hiding your pricing, if you're hiding information about your business, you're going to be just causing what we call the F word of the internet, which is frustration.
Yep.
And you know what happens when you cause frustration on the internet, Corey? You go somewhere else. You don't spend more time trying to look for information. You don't spend more time hoping that you're going to find it. You go somewhere else until you find it. And so if you're causing frustration on your website, if you're causing frustration in forums, wherever it is, you're wasting people's time, and they're not going to waste a lot of their time on you. If they don't find it in, let's call it 15, 30 seconds, and that might be generous, they're going to go somewhere else and find it. So if you're focusing on trust, if you focus on education, and if you focus on helping a customer make an educated buying decision, they're naturally going to say, yeah, I'm open to working with you because I learned from you first. And when they learn from you, they likely want to give you your business too.
Beautiful. I'm going to add in a little bit because you and I get into this a lot. I've had a difficulty putting myself out there in video. It's painful for me, and that's why I'm doing these interviews, because I forget about that we're being filmed.
Yeah.
It couldn't be any easier with these new iPhones and Opus Clip and Descript to create just fun and engaging videos that follow the classic they ask you answer methodology of just bringing up a topic and talking about it. We're obsessed with influencers, this and this and that. Everybody's got influence, right? So if you're just talking about people's problems, and on LinkedIn primarily, and obviously B2B, there's no mystery. That's where everybody's at. It's LinkedIn. It's easy breezy to create some great engaging conversations, get some comments going, and lean into this whole notion of, I don't like to use the word social selling at the end of selling, because it's not even, when you do it the way you and I do it, you don't even need to mention the word sales or sell, right?
No.
People come to you naturally. They gravitate to us, and that's how my pipeline has not been any fuller. We don't do any outbound.
And outbound works. Like, just to be clear, there is a world out there where outbound works really well.
Absolutely.
The issue is when you're using outbound without any knowledge and it's all just a volume game versus,
Bingo.
Hey, I know of you, I found you, I understand that this is where you're at. There's a world for outbound. The issue and the frustration that a lot of your listeners in the industry are feeling is, why is no one responding to our stuff? It probably means that you're not following what's going to make outbound effective. You're not following these principles that we've talked about today. Instead, you're just pitch slapping people and you're just feature dumping everywhere and just saying, hey, we are great. Come see how great we are, instead of making it about the customer itself.
Bingo. Now, I will say, when you have a nice, healthy base of inbound, and you don't have to panic on getting your numbers on outbound, it's nice to have that little lever, because I think you'll admit inbound inquiries are the best, right?
They're warm, they're interested, they very much want to work with you, assuming it's the right fit, versus outbound, you're, again, crossing your fingers. And that's the part that drives me crazy, is when you're just hoping someone says, yes, I have that problem, thank goodness you're here to save me. It's just a waste of energy when you could really be focusing on that inbound approach, really focusing on, and again, we're a little bit biased. Like, we believe in the inbound methodology. We know it works. And we know that there's such an opportunity in hospitality in particular to focus on educating customers and driving them to you, because we know they're looking. We know they're looking for this information out there. They want to better understand what an alternative looks like to where they are, because they're probably facing an issue they don't like. People want to fix their problems. and they are going to try to find ways to do that, but they don't want you to tell them how to fix it until they find out how they want to fix it themselves.
Big time. Connor, I think I told you before, the last 3 calls I've had this week,
Okay.
enterprise level companies, 0 inbound, 0.
Yeah.
It's all outbound. Hey, anyways, I could go on and on with you. We're gonna save it for another part 2 because this thing could get really long, and I'm gonna get the eye roll theory going here.
We'll dive back in another time.
I love it. What are you up to now, and where are you, by the way?
Yeah, I am our director of revenue operations at Impact, which is a coaching and training company. We're located in Cheshire, Connecticut, out of all places, but I'm out in Connecticut as well. So I live right on the coast in a small town called Mystic, which is like it sounds as magical as it is. It's right along the water. It's got a little drawbridge through downtown. It's got all these shopping centers. It sounds like what it is. But for what I'm up to, I help lead up. I'm part of our customer acquisition team here at Impact. So I focus on customers coming in, helping guide them to get the right experience they need, working both on the sales and the marketing side. And that's probably something we didn't talk a lot about today, but how those teams very often are not working together. And I imagine hospitality, you would say they're as siloed as it gets, right? And there's a lot of industries we work with where if those teams are working together, all of this stuff starts to really make sense. And then you're firing on all cylinders. But for a lot of them, it's sales is going to do its thing, marketing is going to do its thing, and they don't make sense. And that causes friction in the relationship too. So I'm really focused on helping not only our team do that, but helping other businesses do that as well.
Love that. Hey, it's been great talking with you. I'm going to see you probably a little bit later today in LinkedIn, I'm sure, right?
Yeah, you'll see me on there every single day. And that's probably the best way to get in touch with me too, is you'll find me posting 5 days a week on there and just sharing insights like this, having conversations. And that, again, that's how Cory and I met. That's how I get to meet a lot of really cool folks in the world. So that's where you'll find me most active. And yeah.
Oh, brother. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate you joining me on InnSync, and have a great weekend.
It's been a pleasure, Cory. Thanks again.
All right, brother.